All right, everyone. The state of California intends to unconstitutionally attempt to imprison somebody for criticism of Islam because of the electronic specific context in which the offending messages, so-called, were made. What happened was a man named Mark Feigen. I believe his trial starts actually tomorrow, which is so we need to weigh in on this as heavily as possible before then and make it clear that California still has to obey the First Amendment. What happened is that he made messages to an Islamic center there, and he was basically like, well, saying unkind things about Islam. Now, it wasn't specifically, I guess, directed at the center itself. It wasn't like, oh, your center's terrible, your imam's ugly, and your congregation is like, savage and stuff. He wasn't specifically deriding them. He was just talking about Islam being evil. And therein lies, I think, the specific differentiation on which he's not going to actually end up serving a day. If he actually gets found guilty under the law they're trying to apply, he should definitely bring it all the way to the Supreme Court. Because specifically, his comments were only a criticism of religion. The fact that they were crude or included swear words means nothing. The law, what it does is it seeks to make it a misdemeanor to repeatedly leave remarks to another person, I guess, in some electronic form, the telephone would apply too, in order to harass them. The thing is, though, the specific comments here are nothing more than deriding religion. How would this, if this law is allowed to be applied like this, how would that be different than if a short-lived debate with more than 2 comments erupted between 2 people of any particular religion whatsoever, and they're like, well, no, your religion, I disagree with because X, Y, Z, and they're like, basically bugger off. They could end up getting arrested for that. It's way too broad. If this application would broaden the law, I think, so much, and this, I believe, is what his attorney is arguing, that it would make it is purely unconstitutional. You wouldn't be able to, for instance, if you're a Californian on YouTube, you would not be allowed to, if I decided to, if you left 2 comments on any video of mine or across YouTube and I screenshot them and send them into your local police office, say, hey, this person repeatedly made comments that are, harassing me. I feel that they're harassing me. I don't like them. You could get prosecuted for that. Now, nobody else in the U.S. would be subject to that. Only Californians. Of course, I could, message the Islamic Center here, and I could say the same things he said. They can't do anything about it because I'm not subjugated to Californian law. It feels really great not to be a Californian consistently. Every single day when I wake up, I'm like, hey, anything could go wrong today, but one thing can't go wrong. I'm not in California. At this point, that's kind of how I feel, because it's like, it's not just this. This is dumb. It was on things that make sense, like marijuana legalization. They dragged their heels forever, and now they can smoke it. I think as of today, it kicks in. So they're like, oh, thank goodness we can have drugs, because trust me, we're going to need them in the upcoming years. You can't do anything in California. You can't have most weapons. You can't say what you want. If your lover infects you with AIDS as a joke or whatever, you can't even do anything to them at this point. Like they'll have to pay a fine. It's like, well, basically screw me, because now I have to spend the rest of my life taking pills and telling everyone I know, oh yeah, by the way, I got AIDS. So, it's all good, though, I was in California at the time, so no crime was committed, so I'm not, and it's hate speech if I speak out against it. That's the way California is going. This is purely unconstitutional. Criticism of religion is not harassment. That's the big point. It doesn't matter if it's delivered in a crude way. I can sit here all day and say, well, I disagree with this religion. I hate that religion. This religious figure is a pile of crap. It's not harassment. It doesn't matter if I send links of a video of me saying that to the figures involved. And this isn't even a person. It's an Islamic center. It's a cohesive group of people. It's a location, a brick and mortar location. How can that get harassed? It doesn't make any sense. What if he were simply posting it in public comments? Would that have changed their reading of it at all? Because trust me, if you have a religious group, Anywhere online, it's going to get harassed at various times by people of other religious movements or irreligion, by hardline atheists. Like the Church of Atheism, I'm sure they get plenty of Muslims and Christians saying you will burn forever, just as they deploy the troops and then go off and harass maybe some church or some imam or something. And that's fine. That's the way the internet should be anyway. It makes things more fun when you've got debates and heated debates, trolling and flame wars and stuff. It makes it fun. Honestly, it makes it more exciting than when if everyone is forced to pretend to be polite, trust me, they don't think any differently in person. If you're worried about more hate speech, people will be hateful, bigotry, oh no. No, bigotry will spread more easily if you try to suppress it. It's just the human nature. It's just what happens, especially with the youngest generation. You could turn Generation Z into a bunch of literal fascists. It won't be a joke like with some of us non-leftist millennials that you like to call Nazi gatekeepers. It'll be literal in the sense of Generation Z. You'll have a new Hitler Youth or something. So congrats to, like, I guess the lamestream media and stuff. Create the monster that you pretend that we are. But this is absolutely unconstitutional. Of course you can criticize religion. The fact is, he stopped after he was blocked. That's another important differentiation. If he had made a bunch of... It would have been harassment, in other words. They block him. He makes another account, starts doing it again. They block him. He makes another account and goes on for a week. Yeah, that would be criminal harassment at that point. It's deliberately disruptive. Doesn't really matter what the context is. It could be something totally mundane. It could be him spamming puppy pictures at that point, and it would still be an attempt to harass them. But he stopped. He leaves the messages. They block him, and he's like, oh, well, whatever. And they still front it to the police. They keep the messages just in order to basically screw with him. That's craptivism. That's what I've spoken of. That's what craftivism is, absolutely in a nutshell. Attempting to fuck others over when really, have you been inconvenienced by 5 friggin' messages from this dude? I don't think so. You know how many times people will try to spam the same thing onto my videos? 200 or 300 times? You know how many times I look in the spam folder of my messages? You know how many people will habitually say, they'll just send 10 or 20 messages in a row and they say the same thing, and it's basically fuck you, or you're going to hell, or something like, and I'm not going to send their info into the police, say, oh, I'm being oppressed, I'm being harassed. It doesn't take any time out of my day. Who fucking cares? Grow a pair. You would think at some point some of these people would be like, well, we're going to get criticized. Wow, it's almost like that's a legal thing. You're a religious order. You're not the same. Look, are you paying, is this Islamic Center subject to paying taxes? No, probably not. As a religious institution, well, then you shouldn't have any say in this. You should just take it. Bend over and take it from people. The same as a church. The same as a Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. They erect a little pasta strainer temple or something. Yeah, criticism should be absolutely allowed. If the person has not gone beyond to the point where they're repeatedly making sock accounts when you've deployed whatever electronic means to block them, like you block someone's phone number and they use voice over IP or something, get around the block. They use their friend's phone, then they use their dad's phone. It's like, that's criminal in nature. But if somebody prank calls you, you block the number, and they never call you again, why would you even bother to prosecute them? What's the point? It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of the state of California's time. Not that they care. It's a waste of the Los Angeles police's time. I'm sure that they felt really, really glad that they had to respond to this. I'm sure they felt really, really glad that they had to arrest someone for sending 5 friggin' messages on Facebook. No, it's absolutely unconstitutional. The state of California cannot make a law that totally disregards the First Amendment. Look at McDonald versus Chicago. The states are explicitly bound as well. The laws that they pass have to conform to the U.S. Constitution as well. They can't. Now, in McDonald versus Chicago, it's specifically the Second Amendment that was at question, but it was an expansive ruling. It also affects the First. The states can't randomly violate your privacy. They can't randomly shut down your speech. They can't randomly say, no, we're going to impose burdensome regulations on your freedom of movement or quartering soldiers. The state guard can come in and quarter in your home because the Constitution, that only applies to troops on the federal level. No, it doesn't. It applies to the states too. And so they're gonna. I don't think that they can possibly win this. And my advice to them, definitely, would be if you do end up, the judge says, okay, well, guilty, give him 10 days in jail. You should absolutely appeal it and go all the way to the Supreme Court and just lay waste to this law. It needs to be made clear that states like California have got to stop violating the constitutional rights of its citizens. They do it on a daily basis anyway, with half a dozen different laws that they've got in California. Like, you look, assault weapons, we're going to regulate them more. And it's like, oh, people keep posting this stupid meme. It's like, well, I wish that guns were regulated as much as my ovaries. Okay, so that you can do basically whatever you want. That's the whole fucking point. Yeah, it's really, really dumb. And this is like the third or fourth big mistake that California's made just in the last year. And just those that are noteworthy enough to get national attention. I can't even imagine on the state level, some local ordinance is passed. It's totally off the wall. Meanwhile, the state of California is burning like a giant cinder, and all they can worry about is a dude said unkind messages to an Islamic center. I just don't get it. The priorities are so out of whack. What are you smoking? Well, as of today, of course, it's something a little more powerful than maybe what you were smoking before. That's about all. Peace out.